Hello all and welcome to the Rails board meeting. Today is Friday, June 17th, 2022. I am Tom Stagg, president of the Rails board, and I call this meeting to order at 1 o'clock. In accordance with the Government's Emergency Administrative Act, PA 100-0640, the Rails Board of Directors finds an in-person meeting is not practical or prudent and believes it is in the best interest of Rails to hold a virtual meeting to perform essential business. Emily, will you please call roll?
Sure. Sue Busenbark.
Here. Here.
Hallie Cox.
Here.
Rosie Camargo. Alice Creason.
Here.
Robin Hellenthal.
Here.
Diane Hollister.
Here.
Chris Kenny.
Here.
Jennifer McIntosh. Scott Poynton.
Here.
Becky Spratford.
Here.
Thomas Stagg.
Here.
Beth Teppen. Monica Tolva.
Here.
Alex Vancina.
Here.
And Karen Boyd.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Emily. The participants will notice that all the Rails committee and board meetings will now have the closed caption setting activated. Captions will appear on the large main screen of the Rails meeting rooms and can also be activated by users on their laptops. And it really works well. I really like that feature. It's time for recognition of guests. We will handle guest and public comments at the same time. We will start in for Rich. Go ahead, Monica.
Monica Harris, Rails.
Renee Lalo, Bossary.
Julie Hillebeck, Downers Grove Public Library.
Dan Boss from Rails.
Got everybody here. Okay. And is there any visitors in East Peoria?
Hi, Kendall Orson, Rails.
Okay. Hello, Kendall.
So excited.
Emily, will you read the names of the guests who are participating via Zoom?
Sure. Catherine Hentz, Rails. Emily Feister, Rails. Ryan Hebel, Rails. Jeanette DeRucki, Rails. Deirdre Brennan, Rails. Sharon Swanson, Rails. Mary Witt, Rails. Joe Philippek, Rails. Layla Heath, Rails. Mark Hatch, Rails. Did I forget anybody? Oh, sorry. Karen Egan with the Illinois State Library.
Okay. Thank you, Emily. We're handling public comments via Zoom or by previous submissions to Emily. Emily, you did not receive any comments?
I did not.
Okay, thank you. If not, does anyone have any public comments at this time? If not, we'll move on to the consent agenda. We have 4 items in the consent agenda. The adoption of the agenda, Rails board minutes from May 27th, Rails board minutes of May 27th closed session, and approval of disbursements May 2022. May I have a motion and a second for adoption of the consent agenda?
I'm so moved, Karen.
I'll
Karen?
second. This is
Thank
Scott.
you, Karen. Thank you, Scott. Emily, will you please call roll?
Sure. Hallie Cox.
Yes.
Alice Creason.
Yes.
Robin Hellenthal.
Yes.
Diane Hollister.
Yes.
Chris Kenny.
Yes.
Scott Poynton.
Yes.
Becky Spratford.
Yes.
Monica Tolva.
Yes.
Alex Vancina.
Yes.
Karen Voidick.
Yes.
Sue Busenbark.
Yes.
And Thomas Stagg.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Next, we have Sharon with the financial report.
Good afternoon, everyone. The May 31st unassigned general fund cash and investment balance of 21.6 million would fund approximately 20.8 months of budgeted fiscal year 2023 operations. Revenues through May of over $12.35 million were approximately $932,000 above budget. And this is primarily from above budget APC payments received to date, as well as the unbudgeted L2 enhancement and specialized cataloging support grant revenues and the FEMA grant revenues which were unbudgeted. Rails received the final remaining payment from the fiscal year 2022 APC grant for the federal or LSTA portion of $1,936,144 in May. This is the second year in a row that we've received all APC grant revenues within the year of the award. Investment income was $41,052 through May, which is a little over $14,600 above the budgeted amount. In February, the money market rates rose above the 0.14% rate that we had budgeted, and they have continued to rise since. The Federal Reserve just raised interest rates 0.75% as of Wednesday this week, and they just revised their interest rate projections to an expected total interest rate at calendar year end of 3.4%. This projected interest rate would be the highest rate since 2008. And this 0.75% increase was the single largest increase since 1994. So the Federal Reserve is really trying to get inflation under control. And they need to be cautious about raising interest rates to avoid throwing the country into a recession. The fair market value of Rails' series of Treasury notes increased by $11,280 during the month of May. These notes will gradually increase to the face value of $3,890,000 as the investments approach their individual maturities. The first of 4 maturities will occur in July. The expenditures through May of a little over $11.1 million were approximately $628,000 below budget. Nearly all major cost categories were under the budgeted amounts, with the exceptions of supplies, postage, and printing expenditures and vehicle expenditures. The majority of the under budget amounts were due to contractual services expenditures that were under budget from lower cataloging grant awards, lower than budgeted hosting fees for the Biblio Board group purchases, lower usage of the Find More Illinois joining incentives than anticipated, and a lag in billings for delivery contractual expenditures. The first of several budgeted replacement storage servers was purchased in March. We're still awaiting the delivery on the software for that server, so it's not quite operational yet. The remaining expenditures for several additional servers have not yet been incurred. And during the industry-wide vehicle shortage that we're currently in, Rails purchased one of Prairie Cat's vehicles in May for deliveries use in Bolingbrook to try to cover some gaps that they've been having. The remaining budgeted purchases of new delivery vehicles has been deferred until fiscal year 2023 and is budgeted for fiscal year 2023. Delivery department expenditures through May of over $3.36 million were $44,731 below budget, and this is primarily due to lower contractual services expenditures due to a normal lag in paying contractual billings. Nearly all cost categories were under budget with the exceptions of vehicle and personnel expenditures. Of course, fuel costs, as we've all seen, have continued to rise. Vehicle repairs and maintenance have, as I've reported before, increased during the past several months, mostly due to the aging of our fleet. 18 vehicles out of our total fleet are at 200,000 miles or above. Personnel expenditures are above budget due to above budget temporary help. And this is mostly due to staff turnover. And I think that that's all that I have for you this month. May I answer any questions?
Any questions for Sharon? None? Okay. Thank you, Sharon. Very informative, and it's a good thing we're getting more interest. That's great. On to item number 7, reports from the Rails president. I'll start off uh, the report. At this time, I would like to present the outgoing board members with a token of our appreciation. And if you guys could come up. And first one I have is for Sue.
Nice.
Sue, okay. And Scott, thank you very much.
I missed the Universal Services. I watched the video and it was so nice that the things you said. And appreciate you reading that. It's so important.
We'll miss you all.
Thank you.
So, thank you. So,
Can we clap?
and Hallie is on Zoom and we will get that to her. And so, and thank you all for your service. It's been great serving with you all. So we'll get on to the committee reports. The committee reports were sent out.
Excuse me, Tom. I just want to let you know
Yes.
that Rosie has joined the meeting as well.
And Jennifer, tell her. Jennifer.
Yeah, and Jennifer's here as well.
Family.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Otherwise she won't call your name for the role, for the vote.
Okay, the committee reports were sent out on Thursday. Does anyone have any questions or any additions to the reports?
I want to thank
Sure.
Sue for her leadership of Universal Services. I missed the meeting, but I watched the video and she had very nice things to say to the committee, and the committee, we have done so much and it's been just wonderful. And thank you so much for your leadership.
Yes, that
I've learned a lot as well.
Those have been great meetings, so.
very robust committee. It's no doubt about that. So any other comments or questions? If not, we have Deidre with us from Connecticut. For the
Yes,
Rails report.
yes. Hi, everybody. I am in a hotel room in Connecticut. I'm sorry that I'm not there in person. Can you all hear me okay? Yes,
Yes.
great. I want to add my thanks to all the board members who are leaving us. You've been terrific. I've loved working with you. I want to welcome the new board members. And I want to thank Tom. This is his last meeting as president, and it's really been great working with you too as well, Tom. So anyway, in terms of you have my written report. It's been a short month. We didn't meet that long ago, and so there's not a whole lot to report. You've received the committee reports. I would, I guess, just draw your attention to in this month at Rails that we have started at the request of some members, notably Betsy Adamowski, a city library directors networking group. And Dan is there with you. I think he can, if you have questions, he could add to this as well. But they have had at least one very well-attended meeting, and I think it's going to be a really great service to these directors who have
Worked at the city library,
very
so-
particular issues that they have to deal with. Also, you'll see in this month at Rails the complete list of My Library Is grants winners. These were directed or aimed at school libraries, and they were so appreciative. It's just wonderful that we've been able to help them in this way. And as far as the Universal Service Committee goes, yes, a shout out to Sue for sure. Sorry to lose her, but also a shout out to a committee member, Gail Bush, who is really moving forward the our goal, our committee goal to add library service areas to the multiple listing service. She's working very hard on this. We hope this is going to happen. This will assist home buyers in knowing whether they're moving into a house that is in a library service area or not. And it's something that the committee has been advocating for a couple of years now. So anyway, thanks to you all. Sorry I'm not there. It's much cooler here in Connecticut, I understand, than it is there, but in any case, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Thank you, Deidre, and
Thank you.
enjoy the cool weather out there. And
Okay.
unfortunately, you can't bring any back with you because it's going to be another hot one next week, I see.
Well, I'll be back tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, on to Ann to talk about Find More Illinois.
Great, thank you, Tom. Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Friday. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our Find More Illinois service, which is a growing service among the things that I oversee under my umbrella. And I'm just going to share my screen here. Okay, can you, oh, actually, you know what? Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
No,
We could before, but not now.
Huh, okay. I'll get unshared. All right, let's see here. Okay, how about now?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Fantastic. Okay, here we go. All right, so Find More Illinois. What is it? It is a vision that Deirdre brought with her when she started at Rails. And it's intended to connect libraries of all types and sizes to enable them to broadly share their collections and to expand the resources that are available to their patrons. It does that by being an interlibrary loan platform primarily, but it's kind of a suite of services. There is a piece of software called Share It that connects catalogs, library catalogs, whether they are consortial or standalone, into one discovery platform interface that patrons and library staff can search and place requests for interlibrary loans. And then there is a staff interface that wherein library staff can manage those requests. And then it also offers the ability to download MARC records, which means that for some libraries, it could also serve as a complete solution that would replace what OCLC currently does for them. There are, of course, a variety of needs, and some of them are greater than the functionality in this software can meet. And that's something that each library has to determine for themselves. But we have heard from many of our libraries that they're interested in a solution like that. And that's something that we're able to provide here with Find More Illinois. It's also of particular benefit to standalone libraries in Rails that would like to participate in resource sharing. One of the things that we just must accept is that not every library in Rails is ever going to join a consortium. That's a local decision. And each community decides what their priorities are. And this Find More Illinois offers them the ability to participate in resource sharing while retaining the kind of local control that some libraries prefer by managing their own catalog. So it's connecting all these standalone libraries and consortial libraries from multiple consortia. So the Share It software, our vendor is Autographics. So Autographics has Share It customers in many other states in primarily the US and Canada. And a lot of these implementations are statewide. I'd say most of them are statewide. So there are hundreds of libraries participating in these states. A lot of them have been established for a long time, even decades in some cases. And this functionality is something that is kind of deeply embedded in the library operations and culture in these other states. They can't imagine living without it. And it's new here in Illinois. It is available to any Illinois library. They do not have to be Rails members. They just need to be a system member. And we think it has a ton of potential to really demonstrate the power of statewide resource sharing, with it being catalog agnostic, consortial status agnostic. We can really connect any library in. So just a tiny bit of history. After Deirdre came to Rails, she established a working group to investigate what was at that time called the Overlay Project. After an extensive environmental scan and procurement process, the pilot of 21 libraries began in spring of 2018. After the successful pilot that was intended to kind of demonstrate proof of concept and work through initial implementation operations, membership expansion began kind of at the tail end of 2018 and through 2019. We did have a large marketing push planned for early 2020. So, you can all guess what happened then. The pandemic really did, it canceled that push because resource sharing was actually shut down for a while. And then it did have a longer term impact on participation here. Find More Illinois was just kind of an infant to toddler phase at that point. And there were libraries that had budget concerns related to the pandemic that had to withdraw, and growth slowed at that point. So I'm sure you can all understand. So we worked with Autographics, the vendor, to put together an incentive program for membership growth. That entails the complete waiving of all the one-time setup fees that are associated with joining. That officially goes through February of 2023, so any library that joins before March. Although we have budgeted, as we have in previous years, to provide additional joining incentives in fiscal 23. So we hope to be able to extend that, and also first work with our vendor to possibly extend it. In addition to that, there are no annual fees for any participants. That is current as well as newly signed on participants until we do the fiscal 24 billing in July of 2023. So this is a fantastic time to join, very low financial risk on the part of the libraries. In addition, there is no fees on the Find More Illinois side, on the Share It software side for NSIP setup, which is a more complex aspect of Find More Illinois, but it can be really valuable if it is compatible with the ILS software in question for automating some of the staff steps and streamlining the work there. So with that, we currently have officially 49 libraries participating. That is 44 public libraries, 4 school libraries, and 1 academic library. Although we did just receive a signed quote from our 50th library. We have them sign a participation agreement, so that's still pending, but unofficially we have 50 libraries as of yesterday. There are also at least 10 quotes pending, 9 additional libraries that have expressed active interest. And then of course we have an ongoing marketing and outreach program that is kind of multifaceted. We're doing some individual outreach. We're targeting specific library audiences, particularly large standalone libraries. And we would also love to get more academic library participation. We do recognize that that's kind of a different beast, that interlibrary loan in academic libraries is kind of its own thing and often very well established. But for an academic library, especially that has a demand for popular materials, it can be a real benefit to their patrons as well. So as a part of our marketing and outreach, we have collected some testimonials from participating libraries, and I just wanted to show you kind of the large spectrum of benefit and appeal that this service has. From a large library that is currently participating, they are thrilled, and this is a standalone library actually as well. They're thrilled to be able to share their larger collections with other libraries. Kind of a win-win for everyone. And then from one of our smallest libraries, she has patrons that have already gone through her collection, and Friend More Illinois has allowed her to just massively expand what she's able to make easily available to them. Similarly, we've got this spectrum of standalone to consortial libraries. And as you know, we have 6 consortia in Rails, the shared ILS groups that range in size from 6 libraries to about 150 libraries. We do find, as well as a side note, that in addition to standalone libraries really benefiting from this, a smaller consortium that just, kind of has that smaller pool of resources also really benefits. But from a standalone library, like I mentioned earlier, they're happy to participate in resource sharing, in seamless resource sharing without giving up their local control. And then we have a library from our largest consortium, RSA, that still finds, even though in a large consortium, the libraries are able to meet upwards of 90%, 90 to 95% of their patrons' interlibrary loan needs from within the other libraries in their consortium. They're still finding that it adds value to the experience of their patrons and their access to the services that the library offers. So we are also currently exploring some expansions and enhancements to the suite of services that we currently offer. We are always looking to improve the experience of our libraries and their patrons. We've made some significant improvements in the search experience, in the user experience of retrieving search results. So I would encourage you here, if you're at a library and your staff have done any test searches to kind of see what's available, and that happened before April of this year. We made some pretty significant improvements to the search experience in mid-April, so I would encourage them to revisit that search, and we've also added quite a few libraries since then, expanding the number of resources they would find. We are also looking at expanding the cataloging tools and number of MARC records that would be available to participants of Find More Illinois. This on its own is a multifaceted kind of project and exploration. There are, along with the ability to currently download MARC records for local use from any collection that is connected to the Share It software. There is a kind of bare bones cataloging utility included in that as well. There's also, however, an additional service that we could potentially add on that we'll be exploring in the upcoming year, called Market, that just adds some further sources of cataloging records from large groups in other states that have given permission to share out their records. So this investigation, in its multifaceted nature, also kind of connects in and means that we'll be watching with great interest things like the the current legal situation between OCLC and Clarivate that just was filed this week. So this whole, cataloging sources and where libraries get their records, where they can share them, is just a huge topic in the library world right now, as I'm sure many of you are aware. So that's a big area of exploration for us, and a place where we would really like to do as much as we can to offer our libraries some really good cataloging tools that don't rely on OCLC, which for many of our libraries, the fees can be prohibitively expensive. Autographics also has a service or an add-on called the Intersystem Sharing Initiative, which, as its name implies, can connect multiple Share-it implementations. So this would be interstate interlibrary loan via the Share-it software. So it makes that experience a lot more seamless. It just kind of brings in all of those nationwide resources from participating groups into the Share-it software. That would be something that libraries would opt into. They would not have to participate. And that's, again, something that we'll be exploring in the upcoming year. Something that we've already added is enhanced borrowing, which is, again, an opt-in service that connects Rails's OCLC account and allows us to take any requests from patrons that go unfilled in the Share-it software and convert it into an OCLC request that we at Rails then manage on behalf of the library. So we would fill that request via OCLC and send it to the library for their patron, and they circulate it like a Share-it loan. So it kind of cuts out the OCLC functions. We do that for them, and they do not have to be an OCLC member to participate in that. So it's another way we are looking to meet that need. Finally, we are able to provide Find More Illinois to libraries that are not automated, that don't have their own cataloging software right now. We do have one library, Waynesville, that is doing that by uploading their records directly into the software. It provides an interface for their patrons to be able to search and then borrow materials from any participating library, including their own. But it's not a circulation platform. It's not something that really provides kind of that fully featured set of local functions that libraries rely on their ILS software to do. So we are also working with Autographics in a couple different ways on their Verso ILS software. That's a separate product that shares a lot of the user experience aspects with Share-it. We currently have on the deals and discounts page a discount program for any Illinois library. They get 20% off of the software. And we're also working with Autographics more broadly to put together an offering for our libraries that are either unautomated or under-automated, meaning that they might have something that they are using to circulate their materials or to manage their collection internally, but it's not necessarily fully featured. It might not have any interoperability with other platforms, or any kind of variety of ways that the whatever they're using doesn't really compete with the more fully featured larger ILS products. So we're putting together an offering for libraries that qualify that is designed to be a limited service, but calibrated to meet the needs of these smaller libraries. That will then, so it will be a small consortium using this Verso ILS that can then connect directly to Find More Illinois. So these libraries will get an ILS for their local use, and then be directly connected into Find More Illinois for much broader access to resources. That is something that we are looking to implement in fiscal 23. And we have budgeted for a new position to handle the planning, implementation, and operations of the Verso group, as well as taking on the oversight of the Find More Illinois operations as well. So with that, I want to tell you a little bit about, kind of how we're doing this behind the scenes and who's involved. So first, Eric Bain is the heart and soul of Find More Illinois operations. He spends 99% of his time supporting Find More Illinois, our participating libraries. He does onboarding, day-to-day operations, consulting with libraries, troubleshooting, working with our vendor, and just constantly pushing to provide the best member service possible. We could not exist without him. I spend, depending on the week, about 10 to 20% of my time on Find More Illinois. And that is, kind of oversight of the service in general, working on promotion, planning strategy, kind of the initial new library intake, providing quotes, answering questions, that kind of thing. So as you might imagine, with the expansion of services and of membership, that is a lot more work than 1.1, 1.2 people can do. So we have, like I said, budgeted for this new position in fiscal 23, the consortial services supervisor. Will come in and take some of the day-to-day stuff that I do off of my plate, work directly with Eric, and really focus in on the services that we provide, on enhancing them and making them the best that they can be. And we actually have just finalized the job description for that, and I will be working on writing the job ad next. So you will see that posted as soon as we can get it up. We also have other Rails staff without whom we would not be able to do as much as we're doing. Jody Rubel has been involved with this project from the beginning. She provides administrative support. Layla Heath provides a lot of consultation with her expertise on the services that she provides. There's a lot of intersections there with the group discounts, group purchases area of the Rails services. Brian Smith manages the website, is in the process of designing a new website for us. And then Nancy George, who you heard from last month, provides lots of consultation and support in terms of cataloging functions, and her role here is going to grow with the Verso Consortium as well. So any interested library can go to findmoreillinois.org for a lot of information about what Find More Illinois entails, how to join. There's a quote form there that would begin the process requesting. There's no obligation to, no further obligation in requesting a quote. We just let you know what your costs would look like when we start charging again. We have a reasonable annual fee that's based on collection expenditures. And then we also have an email, info@findmoreillinois.org, that goes to several of us that anyone can send questions to. We are also happy to, at any time, set up a meeting with interested libraries that have further questions or want to see a demo. So with that, that is what I have. I'm happy to answer any questions, or you can just feel free to visit these resources.
Hi, Anne. This is Monica Tolva. I wonder if I could jump in and ask you to speak directly to the benefit of Find More Illinois for school libraries. I would love to see that there were 4 school libraries who are already members, yay them. And just, I guess, I think school libraries are in sort of an odd flux of OCLC membership based upon past Illinois. Anyway, there used to be, you had to be a member to get a state grant for a while. And so some schools are in and some schools aren't in, and some people dropped it because the prices went up so much. And even, even my district for the first time ever is questioning, what are we paying OCLC for? Like, what benefit do we get from them? And why is it so different from one school to another, which has always been a bone of contention. So can you talk about how, for a school library that might not really want to do a whole lot of interlibrary loan, but wants to kind of play the game and be part of a state library group and be a good library citizen, how can Find More Illinois be a solution for that? Or, why would it be attractive to a school?
Yeah, absolutely. Just kind of on its face, Find More Illinois will connect a school library into it provides that connection right away. As you saw, we don't have that many school libraries participating, but for the ones that have, they often have very small collection expenditures, which makes the cost of Find More Illinois for most of these libraries under $500 a year, which again, for most of those libraries is much lower than OCLC would cost them. They are then able to request any items that their students need that aren't in their own collections. And there isn't a large amount of pressure on any of them to share out their materials. It's just kind of to their availability and tolerance. There are a lot of options sort of within the software that allows them to kind of calibrate according to their availability, logistical availability in terms of their schedule. Of course, they don't need to continue their participation over the summers. So we have found that it's a really flexible option for them that for a lot of libraries, a few $100s can make or break their budget, of course, but it is not on many budgets a huge pressure item. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
And this is Becky. I have a question. I actually have two. One, I was looking to see if they would be at ALA because I'm going and they're not listed. Would they be under another larger company? They're not listed as an exhibitor.
So they actually let all of their customers know a few weeks ago that this year, or in the immediate future, they are focusing their resources on state conferences because their customers are all at the state level. So they're focusing on sending their staff, which is they're a decently small company. They are nowhere near the size of like a Circe Dynix or Innovative. They're focusing on state shows. So they're going to be at ILA.
I was about to say, okay, they're going to be at ILA, which means that between now and ILA, what should we board members be doing? I mean, I have the card you made for us, the talking points, but like some of us like me are in consortia you would want. So what is the talking points for us as Rails board members between now and ILA to get interest in this?
Well, the incentive program on the financial side of things is something that we have found that has piqued a lot of interest. Also, the growth that is happening right now. We have quite a few standalone libraries that have large standalone libraries that have either just joined or are in the process of joining. Wheaton just went live. Helen Plum went live a while ago. Thank you, Alex. We have Skokie in the process of joining, and all of Pinnacle. That is our first full consortium that has joined. We are thrilled to have them. They have their training starts next week. So they're going to be going live soon as well. And these are all libraries that we have directly heard from other Rails libraries that they are very much interested in seeing those particular libraries, as well as those sizes of collections, be available through Find More Illinois. So, I think of all of the possible talking points, those are two that we've heard from libraries that are important to them.
Do we know if we're planning something big at ILA to really push this? Or is that not decided yet?
We've got a little while, but we
No,
do
I know, yeah.
yeah. But yeah, we do have some stuff in the works.
Okay, because I was on it while you were talking too. I think it would be a good time to make sure we're gonna have everybody there. So especially the larger consortia in the Chicago area. So it'd be a good time to make a push.
Yeah, and we actually, some things that we've done in previous years at in-person ILA conferences, we have had swag that's specific to Find More Illinois. We've provided demos at the booth, had, me or Eric kind of split time so that we had good coverage at the booth to answer questions. And then with Autographics, we also, I think at the last in-person ILA, they sponsored or co-sponsored the Rails reception, which we're also looking to ask them to do again this year.
Thank you.
Two questions also. This is Jennifer. Hi, Ariane. Nice to see you. So my first question was about just if you could address document delivery a little bit, or is anybody using that part of it for non-returnables, or I see this listed as part of the service. Just curious to what degree that part is being used and how well it's working.
It's not being used by any of our members, which I think has a lot to do with the fact that we don't have a lot of academic libraries participating, but it is something that we've seen in action in the software just ourselves in our training, and it works very nicely. It fits right into the staff workflows. So if you wanted to hear about this in more detail and from libraries that have it in action, I'd be happy to connect with you offline, and there's an active user group, and the people that we work with at Autographics are always great in helping us to additionally identify other implementations and customers that are doing kind of what we're looking to learn about. So we can definitely connect, with someone that could help you get the information if you want more specifics.
That'd be great. Thank you. I think I just want to know a little bit more about that, since that's such a critical part of what resource sharing looks like in academic libraries. And there's kind of a cobbled together network of how everyone's dealing with that now. So I'd love to kind of see how this sits next to other options. The other piece was this might be too deep in the weeds, so you can just kind of give me just a brief answer on this one, but you kind of alluded to the fact that there's a lot of ability to customize how you scope your collection for how it's exposed to the rest of the group. And I'm wondering if that gets to the level of saying like ebooks, shouldn't be discoverable in here because we can't lend an ebook to other people. Does it have that level of control? We can just kind of exclude full format types and really scope down to what's truly available to people.
Yeah, absolutely. The way that we make the collection information available to search is by uploading MARC records directly into it's the Union catalog within the Share It software. So we collect, libraries can also upload it directly. The workflow kind of depends, but the libraries basically scope what is available either by only sending us the records for items that they are willing to lend, or by giving us parameters that then Autographics uses when they import those records. So patrons are only seeing, and libraries are only seeing items that are that the libraries are willing to lend.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Dee has
I-
something.
I just wanted to say, thank you, Anne, for a great presentation. And also that, as Anne said at the very beginning, this is something that has been around in libraries across the country for decades. And it's not something that is well known here in Illinois for many reasons that we won't go into. So it's been difficult, a little, more difficult than it should have been to build it, to get the momentum. And so I would recommend in answer to both, you, Jennifer, and Becky, I know you have colleagues in other states, and asking them what their experience is with Share It and autographics would probably be very helpful. It's Florida, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, Indiana.
Wisconsin.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot,
Wisconsin.
there's a lot of places that have it installed statewide as the statewide resource sharing and cataloging service. And then, then there's ILA coming up as you point out. So I just wanted to say that in terms of ALA and national stuff.
Yeah, many years ago now, when Jane Plass, our previous associate executive director, this all was planned and initially implemented under her leadership. When we were talking with groups in other states about, knowing that we had some skepticism and kind of an understatement in Illinois about this kind of initiative, we said, how did you market this? Like, how did you convince libraries that this was worth trying? And the most common answer that we got, I'm not sure we got any other kind of answers, was like, well, we've been doing it for so long, it's just completely embedded, like no one can imagine life without it. It's quite contrast.
Anyone else have any questions for Ann? And I think the more information gets out about this program, the more people will be willing to jump on board. So thank you very much for the presentation. It was very informative. I think Karen Egan is out there at the Illinois State Library. Karen, can you take it away?
I certainly can. Thank you so much. And I would just like to add my thanks to the retiring board members as well. It, is a yeoman's task to be on a board of trustees, and you guys are amazing. I just have to say that, but okay. First and foremost, I know this is on all your minds, all fiscal year 23 grant applications, including the system area and per capita grants, are just waiting for final approval from Secretary White. And as soon as we have the okay to award, we'll be sending out those letters, letting you know right away. So everything is just on hold right now, waiting for that final okay. Public Act 102-0977 was signed by the governor on May 27th. This amended both the Local Library Act and the Public Library District Act to require that trustee vacancies be filled within 90 days after a vacancy has been declared. In the past, the statute just said forthwith, which meant as soon as possible, but forthwith to some meant faster than others. Well, public library districts are statutorily required to inform the state librarian and their local county clerk of board member changes and vacancies. In January, the state library sends an annual reminder of this requirement to every public library district. There are, oops, here comes the train, sorry. There are 357 public library districts in Illinois. And last year, about 86% reported retaining trustees or filling vacancies within 2 months. So 86% last year did really well. It's those other couple ones. A public library district has 7 board members. If a public library district has a declared vacancy that they are unable to fill in the 90 days, Public Act 102-0977 gives the state librarian the authority to appoint a trustee within 60 days. Now, we are currently on we're working on procedures to address how this will look and how this will happen. If the board and the state librarian are unable to fill the vacancy must be filled at the next election. So there's kind of a domino effect here that's going to be taking place. And you will be hearing more about this as we get things solidified. Now, in addition, this same act gave public libraries the option to elect and provide compensation for a qualified treasurer that is not a trustee on the board. So public libraries now have the option to basically hire a treasurer to serve as in that treasurer position on their library board. That's brand new as well. The other thing we're working on is the cards for kids section in the administrative rules. They will be amended so a library may adopt a policy waiving the non-resident fee for persons under the age of 18 as stipulated in Public Act 102-0843. Lots of legal things going on at the end of this fiscal year. One of the things that we're working on as well is we are in the final stages of writing the 2023 to 2027 long-range plan for the use of Federal Library Services and Technology Act fund. This plan is required every 5 years in order to get the federal funds and gives the details of how Illinois will comply with federal laws governing use of LSTA funds and general plans of how we will use the annual about $5.5 million allocation over the next 5 years. In Illinois, we use LSTA for a combination of statewide initiatives and sub-grant awards. Now, state initiatives are activities such as supplementing the system area and per capita grant payments with LSTA to support delivery, and programs like Directors University or underwriting the cost of speakers at the annual ILA conference. Basically to enhance the skills and knowledge of the library workforce through continuing education opportunities. Sub-grants include grants to libraries and the systems and consortia like Project Next Generation, or if any of your libraries have gotten the Back to Books money, Back to Books grants, or seed money to help the Illinois Library present Joint Programming Cooperative. The LSTA allotment is based on a base grant plus population. So we may see a slight reduction based on the 2020 census figures for Illinois. We'll see how that turns out, and hopefully it'll be not as bad as we, census figures have been. We are excited that our building is open and we have started welcoming outside events. We were delighted to host the in-person Directors University earlier this month and look forward to hosting the Advanced DU2 later this summer. We have an international group of librarians in our building right now from the Mortensen Center at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. It's exciting to see librarians and people back in our building, as I know you probably are welcoming them as well. So with that, does anyone have any questions for me about anything going on at the State Library that I can answer for you?
Karen, my name is Karen too. I have a question. You mentioned about your library board may hire a treasurer, but that treasurer would not be included as a board member. Is that true? So you still need a 7-member board member plus a hired treasurer?
I'm not sure how that goes. I can pull the act if you would like, but they can hire a qualified treasurer to be the treasurer on the board. So that hired person would hold the position of treasurer, is the way I read it.
So it'd be one of the 7 board members would be
Yeah,
hired.
that's interesting because that's affecting the state election law. That's curious. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was a separate employee.
And
Well,
maybe
that's
it
what I
is a
thought, if
separate.
it's
Like
is it-
school districts can do
So
and
they're
Maybe
not
it
gonna
is a
be
separate one.
trustee.
no, and I think it was only for districts if I'm not, it's not for, I thought it was only for library districts right now, but I might be
Okay.
mistaken. This is Becky.
I guess what I don't understand.
But you are a
is
library district.
They always could hire somebody to do like the financials.
No, but as an official, like, paid position as school boards have it and counties have it. There's like a Lyons Township County.
She
or
said
Lyons Township Treasurer.
library board of 7, and you had the option
To
to
hire.
hire a treasurer. So would that make
To
the
elect,
library board
and
be?
now, the word elect
pay.
is in there with the option to elect and provide compensation for a qualified
Oh.
treasurer that is not a trustee on the board. So,
So your board would
That's-
have.
so
that's-
that
that's an
is in
employee of
addition
the
to the
library.
7.
So that
I
is like the
misspoke.
townships. The
Okay.
townships have elected, like Lyons Township has an elected treasurer that is not on the Lyons Township board. It's like a position.
But it's an elected position.
It is elected.
This is not elected.
She just said elected was in there
Elected and.
and not serve on the board. We need guidance on
And
this
they,
one.
they
Okay.
will create that administrative
All right.
guidance.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah,
that will
that
come.
sounds-
But Becky, I believe you are correct that this would be the 8th position because they are
Right.
provided compensation.
But not a trustee.
No.
No voting, right?
As soon as we say that it's not a trustee.
They don't know, will be,
Because
you're
I'm like,
right.
that's just an employee.
Yeah,
Well,
they'll help us.
An employee
They'll
of
help
the
us.
board, not.
Yeah,
So the
let's
board
wait to
is
see what the
director,
administrative rules are
trustee.
on this.
Yeah, let's give
I
it
get what
time.
you're saying, but
Okay.
that's really splitting hairs.
Well, Karen, I was taking notes, but I missed, when does it go into effect? This
You know, I
one?
don't
Is this
have that,
immediate?
Becky. It is Public
Okay.
Act 102-0977. Oh, wait, I've
All right,
got
I'll
it right
look it
here.
up.
May 28th.
Well, that's when it was
because
signed, but did
This
it,
is the one signed by the governor on May 27th.
but is it in effect immediately upon signature? Because sometimes
I-
there's a delay.
Believe it is.
I can look it up. Oh, boy. With no rules.
That's how it, this.
So
way.
now that's a real thing, but nobody knows.
Well,
how to
marijuana didn't
use
do
it?
that. We voted and we
Is
had
that
some
what
fun.
you're saying?
Yes.
Julie has a comment.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
here, let me read it to you exactly. The board may, instead of electing a treasurer from among the trustees, by majority vote of the board, appoint and fix the compensation of a qualified treasurer that is not a trustee of the board.
So, okay,
But then she said it said elect, though.
Well, the
No, no,
board
no.
elects.
No.
Oh, okay, that's so much better.
The board has the option to do this. They're using elect as a verb rather than as a vote.
Oh, okay.
To me, it sounds like the board can hire somebody, which they always could do anyway. But what this is allowing the board to do is have none of the trustees have the title
Be
treasurer.
Okay, which you
Yes.
have to by law. Okay,
Yes.
all right, that makes more sense then.
That's the real change right there is
Yeah.
the trustee doesn't have to be one of the.
The treasurer.
Does not have to be one of the trustees. That's the law.
Right.
That's actually.
And
not
so they
bad.
could hire somebody like a CPA firm to be the treasurer and to keep the books.
Well, a person.
Yes.
Which is important because we've had people on our board that work for like Goldman Sachs and they can't be the treasurer because of FCC regulations, even though that person would have made the most sense to be our treasurer. So that does make sense.
Right.
Did you want to make a?
Yeah.
And this is new that they can provide compensation for that person as well.
We have a comment in Burr Ridge.
Sorry, the origins of this particular law and why it was brought up is some of the smaller libraries were having trouble getting trustees who were willing to give their personal information as the treasurer to be bonded as the treasurer of the board. Because in order to get that bond, you have to provide your personal
Social security. number,
financial
all that
you do.
stuff.
information. I mean, a lot of financial information. And a lot of these smaller libraries were really having trouble getting somebody to say yes to that. So that was
Okay.
the impetus behind ILA helping to get this law passed.
Okay.
And they run a credit check on the
Yes, they
trustee
do.
as well, yeah.
All
Karen,
right. Thank you very much.
one other question for Karen, please. The cards for kids, I just want to clarify that this allows a public library district to waive non-resident fees, but does not require them to waive non-resident fees for students.
The public library board, if they vote to offer non-resident cards, then they must waive the non-resident fee.
Okay,
If they vote to not offer non-resident cards, then they just won't do it.
got it. Okay. But if they offer non-resident cards to anyone, then they must waive it for students.
No, I don't think that's correct.
You don't think so,
Karen.
Dee?
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
go ahead.
No, the mandated part is, I'm sorry to break in, but the mandated part is the school lunch eligibility. This is just a choice that boards can make.
Okay.
I have another question for Karen too about the plan that you've been working on, the state library 5-year plan. Is it a 5-year plan?
Yes, it is.
I'm just, and I guess maybe it's more a comment than anything else, than a question. It would seem to me that would be a thing that you might want to involve, member, libraries in Illinois in developing that plan. And I heard Greg say the last time that you reached out to libraries that you gave grants to, but for example, the systems were never asked. And I just think it would be the appropriate thing to, involve, hopefully SACL in the future, the systems, because this is a very important opportunity to shape, the priorities. And I think that we should all be asked about that. So if you would let Greg know that, I'd appreciate it.
Okay. We'll do. Any other questions or concerns? The cards for kids, again, wait for the administrative rules for those to come out as well. They are being drafted.
Okay, and any other questions for Karen? None? Okay, thank you, Karen. As always, you're very informative and we heard some great things. Now on to item number 8, new business. Report on board elections and recommended slate of officers. Moving on with Alice.
Hello. So I was privileged to be able to serve as the chair of the nominating committee this year. And overall, we had basically two jobs to do. So one was the Rails board election, and then also presenting the slate of officers for the Rails board for next year. I'm happy to say that we had a really good collection. We had a lot of really good candidates this year for the Rails board. We had a good number of candidates for all the categories and a good representation, geographically and from different library types. So we were really happy with the candidates that we got this year. I'm happy to sort of announce who the winners were. It was announced last week in the Rails e-news, and it's also in Deirdre's report, but I will read those names again now. So our newly elected board members for the at-large seats includes Renee Leva from the Fossil Ridge Public Library District and Julie Milovic from Downers Grove Public Library, who are both here today. For the public library trustee seats, we're happy to welcome back Diane Hollister from the Bloomington Public Library, and also Vanessa Villarreal from the Lake Villa District Library. And then finally, for our special library seat, we're happy to welcome Juanita Harrell from the DuPage County Law Library to the board. So we want to thank everybody who did vote in the election, and also the members of our nominating committee, including Sue Busenbark, Angela Campbell from Rock Island Public Library, Bobby Mack from Illinois Veterans Home in Quincy, and Charm Runke from the Peru Public Library. So the second part of the nominating committee's position or job is to present the slate of officers for next year. And so I am happy to present a slate for you all for your consideration and discussion. And we have for our nominees for next year, for president is Alex Mancina. For vice president is Jennifer McIntosh. For secretary, Diane Hollister. And for treasurer, Karen Wojtek.
This side of the room is strong.
Just realized they're all sitting like right there. That's right. These are the people I look at, you know, every board meeting. So I'm like, you. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, thank you, Alice, for your service and your committee member service. It was a new venture this year as we redid the committee to get more board member involvement. So your group did a fine job. Next up is Deidre to talk about the draft board meeting fiscal year 2023 calendar.
Yes, thanks, Tom. So you have the draft schedule in your packet. And, you know, this is the proposed schedule, obviously, where we have been meeting on the fourth Friday at 1 p.m. most months, except when we don't, since Rails began. So it doesn't mean that we can't change it. It just means that we have certainly discussed changing it, and the staff is, you know, of course, very willing to look into that again, but I just want to say that we all know that it's very hard to find, you know, meeting times and dates. So that's why we end up with this. That's why we stuck with it. But it is up to the board, of course. So, and all those TBDs, the to be determines, a lot of that is, of course, because of the we don't know what's going to happen with in-person meetings, you know, hybrid meetings, etc. So we hope that we can travel again to other sites and, you know, see each other in person, but we're not assuming anything at this point. So that is, you know, I'm happy to, you know, answer questions or hear your discussion, etc.
Any questions? No? Okay. Deidre, thank you, and I'm glad to see the TBDs. Hopefully we can get out and about, because Mr. Bostrom is up next, and I know he loves going out and about. So and the board loves going out and about.
Tom,
So,
I think,
yes.
I'm sorry, Dan, hold you up. I think you need to vote to approve this if you're ready to, because we need to be able to post it as the official calendar.
Well,
I thought it said
actually,
it says discussion only.
Oh, we have to wait till, and you're right, we have
Yeah.
to wait till July till
Yeah.
we have the new board seat. I
Right.
apologize. Okay,
Okay.
Yeah.
okay,
The
sorry,
new,
go
the
ahead,
new
Dan.
board, just for clarification, the new board votes on the
Yes.
next calendar year. We just have to present this because of the July board meeting is on there.
Doesn't get to vote.
Yeah.
That's so I don't propose that all the meetings start at 4 p.m. on Friday.
Give everybody a chance to check their calendars and everything. So when we vote on it in July, when the new board is seated, again, thank you, Deidre. Moving
Yep.
on to Dan with a new Rails member.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon, everyone. It's really nice to be with you all today. So I'm pleased to present the second Department of Corrections facility as a new member for 2022, which is great. This is the Joliet Treatment Center. They are a multiple security facility, which just means there are different levels of security for residents. I met with Kalina Woodard last week. We had a very nice meeting. She has worked in Rails public and school libraries before, which is terrific. She has an MLIS, so it's really great to see that they're interested in Rails membership. She's particularly interested in continuing education, networking, grants. One of the things, this is more my dream maybe than hers, but I've been hoping to get some sort of networking group going for recently incarcerated, for services to recently incarcerated patrons. It'd be sort of a group, kind of a collaborative group between public libraries and prison libraries. And I'm really hoping to kind of get that started in 2022, maybe 2023. But anyways, I talked to her a little bit about this, and yeah, for all those reasons, I'm asking you to approve them as recommended to the Illinois State Library. Any questions? Can I answer any questions for y'all?
I have a question related to that other thing that you
Please,
mentioned.
yeah.
But, do you have any inroads whatsoever into the state correctional side of things?
Yeah. I've had a conversation with the person who oversees all the libraries for the Department. Of
Oh,
Corrections.
that's great. Okay.
Yeah, and this was pre-pandemic, unfortunately, and I think it really kind of fell off at that point. But one of the people that I had a conversation with, and I hope I'm saying her name correctly, it's Rayanne Montague, and she's at Chicago State University. She's on faculty for the MLS program, and she gave a presentation at Reaching Forward about services to recently incarcerated patrons, and it was really great. And I've contacted her about maybe helping start a networking group and get more going that way. I just haven't. I mean, it's the summer. I'm sure she's working on a million projects, and academic libraries tell me that they're busier during the summer than they are during the school year. So
Interesting.
I get it. So
Yeah, ALA, this is Hallie. ALA has a really strong committee for services to prison populations. And you might also want to look at juvenile justice facilities. Determine whether you guys want to do adults or children, because they're very different scenarios. Or if you want to do both.
yeah, thank you, Howard.
So this is Scott. I'll make a motion that we admit the Joliet Treatment Center as a member.
This is Becky. I second it.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Thank you, Becky. Emily, will you please call roll?
Sure. Rosie Camargo,
She's there. Somewhere.
Yes.
Alice Creason,
Yes.
Robin Hellenthal,
Yes.
Diane Hollister,
Yes.
Chris Kenny,
Yes.
Jennifer McIntosh,
Yes.
Scott Poynton,
Yes.
Becky Spratford,
Yes.
Monica Tolva,
Yes.
Alex Vancina,
Yes.
Karen Voidick,
Yes.
Sue Busenbark,
Yes.
and Hallie Cox, and Thomas Stagg.
Yes. Okay, thank you, Dan. Next up, we have unfinished business, which we have no unfinished business. So we'll go on to our board development topic. Update on the school library. Update on the school library data project. Jeanette?
Yes. Hello. How are you all doing?
Good.
Thank you.
Good. If you're ready for me, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. I have a few short slides to show you kind of what we've been working on. And I'm actually going to drop a link in the chat. Give me 1 second. To a Padlet where I've been kind of keeping track of all the visualizations and some of the analysis we've been doing. So I didn't put anything in the board packet for this because everything I'm going to show you can be accessed from that site. And that site I will actually continue to update. I've updated it several times since the project started. So if you'll just kind of keep that link, you can access that at any time and kind of see what we're doing. Let me go ahead and show you.
Emily, for those of us on the in person, can we get that emailed, that link?
I can get it to Emily so that she can put it in the minutes. Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. All right. Can everybody see my slides?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So it's just a starting slide. I think the last time I spoke to you was in March. So at that point, we had really just started this project and I was just working on data collection. And I've done some analysis and planning since then. So today I want to update you a little bit on the data we've collected, kind of the primary areas of focus when we're looking at the data, and then looking at the preliminary results we found and a quick look at what's coming up. So you'll kind of know where it's heading. Here I've listed the primary sources we've used to gather data for the project at the national, state, and local levels. Most of the data has been freely available online, obtained through FOIA request, or even was data that we already had at Rails. One of the primary sources of our data has been the recent library certification process. That has been phenomenal for us to collect a lot of data. This year, school libraries were asked to provide additional information as part of that process to help inform our project. The 774 schools and/or districts completed the certification process. That was 698 public school districts and then 76 non-public schools. It's important to note that of the data sources I've listed here, there is not one single source that's going to give us all the information that we need. So data will continue in the future to be aggregated from multiple sources to kind of keep this project in an ongoing fashion. The data we've collected allows us to take a closer look at the three categories I've listed here: staffing, collection, and finances. As I mentioned, the visualizations that are going to be on the coming slides are in that Padlet I sent you the link to, so don't worry about memorizing what you see. It's going to be a lot of numbers that I'm going to throw at you all at once, so hopefully you can review that later when you have a little more time to process. First, I'm going to talk about the school library staff. This is probably the area I've spent the most time looking at most extensively thus far. It's kind of taken a priority for me based on the initial goals for the project, which were to uncover how the trends in the school library staffing are impacting schools in the state. And this is an area that both Illinois Heartland Library System and Dominican are both investigating, so we've been happy to collaborate with them. They've supplemented our data. We've done the same for them when we were able to do that. We also are grateful to the Illinois State Library for providing some of the data that we're using. It's really helped kind of give us a complete picture of what we're looking at. And when we are able to, we've been using online resources as well, district websites, staff directories, things like that. So first, I want to talk to you just about the number of positions we've identified. As of last week, we have 2,882 potential library positions serving Illinois schools. We're interested in the credentials of the school library staff, so I first took a look at the highest level of education reported for each of these staff members. This pie chart here kind of gives you a breakdown. You can see roughly about a quarter of the library staff have earned some type of formal library degree. The MLIS is definitely the most prevalent degree that they report having. Less than half of all library staff reported having some type of library related education. So that kind of leads me to wonder, why is this happening? Is it funding, lack of incentive? Are there just or do they have another degree that's closely related, so they feel like that's sufficient? For the state of Illinois, however, to be considered a certified librarian for a school, it's the library information specialist endorsement that is actually the standard. So I next looked at how that kind of breaks down as far as the positions we've identified. So the results for that are shown here in the pie chart on the left. And you can see that the majority of staff members do not actually have this endorsement. Only about 1/3 of all of them do. And then the bar chart on the right, I was taking a closer look at those staff members that do have some type of library degree and to see how many of them also have the endorsement. You can see that there's a fairly high correlation. So most people who have a library degree find the value in also earning that same endorsement. I will tell you, in that bar chart, it's roughly about 20% of all library positions are represented there. So 20% of all the staff members have a degree and an endorsement. There are roughly, I think it's a little over 300, like 312 staff members that are certified teachers with the LIS endorsement that do not have formal library training. So that was the breakdown of that. Are there any questions so far for any of this? No? Okay. Another aspect of school library staffing that's interesting is whether districts are employing full-time staff for their school libraries. We know on the national level that library access has been positively tied to learning outcomes for students. So ideally, we would see a full-time staff member in every school library. The scatter plot here is encouraging because it shows the relationship between the number of staff positions reported for your school and the number of full-time equivalent staff members. So the idea that as the number of staff positions that are created increases and also the number of full-time staff increases, it's a pretty good you like to see all those dots very close to that line. So that shows there's a very strong correlation. And we do know that there's not necessarily a one-to-one correlation between a staff member and every school. So we'll take a look at that in a second. I do want to say that I have these data points sized by district size. So the larger the circle, the higher the number of buildings that they're serving. So you can kind of get an idea, like this is a fairly large district out here. I believe this is Rockford, this one is Naperville, and then this is going to be the Schaumburg District 54. So those are kind of, you would expect those to be pretty large circles in there. Again, this chart in the Padlet is an interactive graph. So you can actually see what each of these circles represents, which district it correlates to. So let's see. Monica, you have a question. If you have an LIS endorsement,
less of a question, just a statement.
Right. Yes, you're right. I misspoke. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. If a school library professional has the endorsement, that means they have some library related education, not to the master's level, but there's something.
So I misspoke in that. Oops, sorry, I'm going to get out of order here. Let me go forward. I misspoke in that what I meant to say was it doesn't indicate a library degree. So yes, thank you for that clarification. I appreciate that. Okay, so any questions about this relationship here before I move on? I've already previewed the next slide for you. So the last slide, like I said, was very encouraging. So next I kind of looked at the full-time staff and then the number of schools being served. So the chart on the left kind of shows you everything. I've removed Chicago Public Schools from this display just so that, you know, like this one out here, I think is Unit District 46. Oh, sorry, I apologize. Clearly my mouse is out of control. Okay, but it's, this one is going to show you the relationship between, again, like I said, the full-time equivalent staff and then the school count. What you see here is not along that very nice tight 45-degree line that we would like to see showing a strong relationship. This one actually shows pretty loose, weak relationships. So it doesn't really indicate that they're hiring more full-time staff as they get more, as they have more buildings to serve, if that makes sense. I then took a closer look at what is essentially this like grouping down here, which is pretty much 15 schools or less being served, because this looks like just a large mass of data. And so when you remove anything to the right of that, you get this chart over here on the right, and it does kind of spread everything out. And you can see, you know, it doesn't really matter how many schools are being served. You have varying numbers of staff serving them. So but if I drew a line through this, it'd be very, very flat, which means there's little to no relationship at all. Okay, any questions about that so far? Okay, I'm going to move on now to talk about the collection statistics. And these next two sections are going to go pretty fast because, like I said, the staff was really the part where I've been spending the majority of my time. The school library collection data that we collected was through the certification process. It was voluntarily given. So I'm going to talk a little bit about why we haven't done more with this as I talk about the kind of the breakdown of the categories that I'm showing here. The chart on the top shows the breakdown by collection type of item, I guess, print books and ebooks, and you can kind of see what they are listed there. It's not really a surprise that print books is the number one item, at least that wasn't to me. Followed closely by ebooks. You can see the range of values here is what was reported. Some people did not include any data. This one here is a negative. So I'm thinking that's like a change in collection totals from a year to year versus a total collection amount. We do have one district that reported having over 2 million, almost nearly 3 million print books, which is kind of going to feed into where I'm going to talk a little bit about why this data is kind of uncertain to me at this time. There was a lot of variation in what we were given by districts, and a lot of them commented on reasons why the numbers that they were presenting were the way that they were. Some of them are that they subscribed to a lot of subscription services. So they were including those numbers in their totals for collections. So maybe it's not stuff that they really own, but they have access to it. One district, and as a matter of fact, reported that they have about 70% of their library budget is spent on subscription services. So it's not things that they physically own. A lot of the variation in this was people indicated that they were really just guessing. So they didn't really know what their collection was. Perhaps it's because like they still use a paper and pencil inventory system. A couple indicated that they haven't done inventory since prior to the pandemic. So 2019 is their last count. Some of them, like I indicated here with this negative number, they were giving me this is what I'm buying for my library this year versus this is our total collection that we own as a district. So it kind of varies. We've also seen in most of these cases, the numbers are being given to us by administrative staff, not necessarily library staff. Some of them don't have access to they say they don't have access to the online catalog with the totals. And then some of it is a change in possession of equipment or ownership of items that used to be part of the library collection, like technology, computers, things like that. So you're going to see a lot of the equipment numbers seem to be pretty low, at least to me, but they were indicating that a lot of that stuff is no longer part of their budget. So their budgets are going down, and then they also are, going to lose those things from their possession. So does anybody have any questions about this? We did kind of look, Grant and I took a look at how this compared to like public libraries. And I want to say, let me look at what we found. It was like the largest public library total collection was like 400,000 total print materials. So I feel like maybe nearly 3 million is a little high, but that's what they reported to us. So that's what we've recorded. Any questions about this? Okay, so next I'm going to talk a little bit about school library finances, which at this point encompasses library budgets as they've reported to us, and then the Illinois State Library per capita grants that were awarded. Budgets, again, another point that was voluntarily supplied. Some people indicated that they were not aware of their budget or they don't have a set budget. So we kind of just did the best with what we had right now. There are, let's see, 672 school districts received grants through the Illinois State Library per capita grant program. They paid out at a rate of 88.5 cents per student. You can see that here. And then you can see this graph at the top shows the range of the grant amounts that were awarded. And I will say this is CPS is the largest amount. And then the 850 was the minimum that was awarded to any district. 327 districts, that's 49% of all the recipients received the $850 award. So, and then you can see here are the budget amounts for any district that reported a budget that was not zero or unknown. So the smallest was 100, and then we had another district that reported over $4 million. This I suspect, this is a school district that serves 10 schools. So I'm assuming this might be a district budget or a technology budget or something that includes more than simply library spending, but I have not confirmed that yet. The second largest budget reported was $3,400,030, and that's a district that serves 3 schools. So you can see where there's like with the collection data as well as with the school budget data, there's a lot of variation and some uncertainty, and we need to do a lot more data verification and validation. So what I did then was I wanted to look at, if you're looking at a school district, how much are they spending per student for their library services? And I made the assumption here that your school budget is going to be whatever budget you've reported plus any grant money that you've received. And I actually just made a note to add the My Library Is grants and any other grants that I've recently have been recently published to this, so that I can get a better idea of kind of the money that schools have coming in for library services. If a district did not earn a grant, just an entry of 0 was used. So it's just the budget alone. So the chart on the bottom shows the relationship between the per capita spending and district enrollment. And what I really want to show you here is that there is an inverse relationship. So it actually shows that as enrollment in the district increases, the amount of money they're spending per student decreases, which I think in some ways makes sense, but is kind of discouraging. I would like to see that be a more positive relationship so that, or at least flat, so that it's not decreasing, it's staying the same across all students. I need to spend more time. This is something that's on my plate to do in the future, is kind of look at this section down here where you have the much smaller districts that are dealing with, you know, some very low level funding, and see like kind of, you know, who is staffing their libraries, how many students do they have, you know, those types of, kind of take a closer look at that information. One of the other things that I wanted to remind you of is that, again, here spending is not going to necessarily be 100% accurate, because some of the districts have reported that like technology budgets are increasing and taking over some things that used to be covered under the library budgets. And some libraries did indicate that they don't have a specific budget that they are given, but their expenses are approved kind of like on an as you go, like they have access to funds, but it's not necessarily a cut and dried set amount. So any
Jeanette,
questions?
I'll just add in one thing too, that you made a comment that you were considering the budget plus grant. But in my district, and maybe in other districts, I'm required to include the grant as part of my budget. So when I say I have X, my district makes me include what is anticipated from that per capita. So I don't know that you can always say that they're separate events.
Okay, and that's good. That's a good point. And I have a note made of that. Like I said, this is one of the things that we really need to go in and validate and verify. This type of information is pretty well protected, understandably, because it's very sensitive as far as what people have as far as budgets and spending. And I think the way that a lot of districts are presenting their budgets now, it's more large category expenses. There's not as much line item breakdown. So it's very hard without contacting the district. And a lot of them have asked for, at least this is coming from my peers at Dominican who've gone through this process a little bit, they're asking for everything through a FOIA request to get any of this information, because I think that they're a little bit curious as to why we want it. But also I want to point out, like, we're looking at things mostly on a district level for now. The goal is to expand it into building level so that, you know, that's going to be even harder to do on a budget, you know, kind of standpoint, because I think that there's a lot of shared resources and things like that. So let's see.
Can I ask a question about budgets? This is Becky. And
sure,
this
yeah.
is probably more for Dee or Monica. Libraries, we're required to break down our budgets because it's tax dollars. So are you saying the school districts, even though it's also tax dollars and there's a taxing line, are not required to provide broken down budgets as we are? That's what you're saying.
Are we though? Are we required?
I mean, we do. Our village requires us to. We have every line
I
broken
don't know if
down.
that's a law. I think that might just be.
Oh, I think that's okay.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a village requirement. Now, I do know I've had several different school professionals tell me that the rules and regulations from ISB around this have changed recently. Like, they used to have to provide a lot more detail, and now they are not requiring that, at least for public consumption. So what happens internally may be very different than what I'm able to access just freely, you know, out there on the internet. So if I do request something more detailed, it's possible that I will get all of this. A couple of districts indicated that their budget is fully, I shouldn't say fully, but majority of it comes from the technology department now. So any subscription service is considered part of technology. It doesn't come through library services, even though the students are accessing that through the media center. So and part of what's complicating this is the fact that everybody's doing it differently and everybody is a member of different things. And so, you know, Grant and I have talked about how this project going forward needs to, like, the kinds of questions we need to ask to kind of start to flesh out some of these differences and where things are really heading, and to try to decide how are you going to actually compare school to school, district to district, you know, just even at the district level, but also then bringing it down to a building by building level, even within the same district. Because I know I was talking to Leah Gregory at Illinois Heartland about their cloud service and share and who subscribes to it, because I've had several districts that indicate, they subscribe, but not all schools are members. And I was like, can you explain to me how this is happening for your organization? And what does that mean collection wise? And she said, so for them, a lot of their member districts will participate in a, subscription like that at the high school and middle school levels, but not at the elementary school level. So it's also then digging into, not only do you subscribe to a service, but who actually has access? And then how do you scope the catalog after that? Who actually has access to what items? How many titles does that really mean? So it's going to take a little time to dig into that in more detail. And I think for us right now, what we've identified, oh, thank you, Karen. I appreciate that. Thank you for that link. I think what we have, what we're doing is mostly focusing on staffing, because that seems to be what's informing a lot of the advocacy. And this is going to lead me into like my last slide, my closing slide, is just where we're going. And it's basically focusing on digging more into the data, staffing, budget, and collections, but mostly that staffing piece, like I said, for use for advocacy, staff development. We've had requests for it for a lot of different reasons. And I think that it's going to be important to make sure that we have it as accurate as possible. Right now at the district level is where we're looking at trying to get it as complete and accurate as we can, and then work towards the building level. We were really encouraged through the certification process. A lot of districts gave us some school level data. So we know exactly who is staffing which building and how many librarians are actually serving multiple buildings. So that has been, eye-opening to some degree, because you'll have one certified librarian in a district that serves 5 schools. So, it is what you're seeing at the national level is what we're also seeing here in Illinois, which is important. So what's coming next is really, I'm busy doing documentation right now for this. So some of the policy documents, database design, things that are kind of very like formal things for the project to document what we're doing so that it can stay consistent moving forward and people understand, the decisions that we made and who's going to own this product and the data and where it's going to be housed and things like that. Another high priority is, like I said, building this database. And then also Grant and I are working together to talk right now about the features and functions for the database tool that we would like it to serve. So it's going to be accessible to school library professionals, also library system professionals. And we want to be sure that we're meeting the needs of the population of users. So we've asked for some feedback from groups like ISLE and several other organizations to say, hey, how do you see yourselves using this in the future? What can it provide to you? So that's how we've come to the conclusion that it's primarily advocacy, to advocate for increased in number of school libraries, also to increase school library budgets, or just even additional staff members, things like that. But also the one thing that was I did not expect and was brought to me was the professional development aspect of it. Knowing what the credentials are of the school librarian population does help inform what kind of programs and trainings need to be available to this population. So I think that's really great. Does anybody have any other questions before I kind of wrap things up? No. All right. Thank you again for your time. I apologize for flipping through my slides back and forth and back and forth. It's like literally operator error. So I apologize for that, but I appreciate your questions. If you ever have anything, you can always feel free to contact me when you're browsing that Padlet late into the night, like I'm sure you will be. And something comes up, please feel free to give me a shout and I'll be happy to answer your questions.
Jeanette, thank you so much for all this hard work. It is just essential that school libraries know the state we're in and that other people know the state we're in. So I am just so grateful. I just got an email today from one of the DOMU students and I was like, yay, I'm just about to listen to Jeanette. So keep up the good work and know that all of the data can be used for improvement for our students. Thank you.
No, thank you. I have been really honored to be part of this project. I really appreciate the time that Rails has invested in me to do this. I do feel like it's a very important work that we're doing, and I'm glad to have the opportunity to do it. All right. Thank you.
I just wanted to say, this is Monica at Burr Ridge. We really appreciate all the work that Jeanette has done regarding the school library project. And I think it also really speaks towards our strategic planning goal about strengthening our collaborative relationships with partner library organizations. Because a lot of what we meet monthly with the ISLE partnership, which of course focuses on work with ISLE, but also with the state library, with ILA, with Heartland. We all meet together. And a lot of what we've been discussing over the last 4 or 5 months are the findings that have come from this data project. So this is things that are really useful to everybody in that group. And they're data points that we can use to really make school libraries in Illinois better. So all this work, it's been a lot of work, but I think it's really gone towards really important places. Thank you, Jeanette.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. Those are great points. Thanks, Monica.
Jeanette, a lot of really good information there. Thank you very much for your report. Now it's time for board member reports. Does anyone have any news to share about their libraries?
It's not about my library. This week I have to be looking through our Bloomington Pantograph, and they are announcing a new initiative between libraries in the community and the newspaper. And today's marks the first one. It's called Out of the Office Hours. And the Bloomington Pantograph reporters will be going to libraries 1 a week on Fridays between noon and 3 to get input from patrons about anything, mostly about stories, upcoming stories about the library, about community events, just stories they think need more research. And I think it's a good partnership. It's new to me. I've never heard of that before. The other thing is we did have our groundbreaking at Bloomington Public Library. We had our gold shovels and it was just so exciting. It was wonderful.
Did
And
you get to keep the
employees
shovel?
were really happy because they have waited for what?
Can
decades
you keep
for
the
it.
shovel?
I didn't get to keep it
No.
because I think some of the city council people may have walked.
I have to say, I recently found my photos from our groundbreaking at LaGrange. Those are great memories. Yeah.
Really. And the groundbreaking was the 2nd of June. We had a really, despite the day, it was a wonderful turnout. And then I have a special thanks from 2 rails from the McLean County Museum of History rail. And I asked Bill, the librarian, because I volunteer, and I said, Bill, do you have anything to say to rails? Be your mouthpiece. And he said, lower the yearly fees. And I said, I can't say that. He said, just kidding. He said, but I want to thank rails wholeheartedly for the cataloging assistance that they get, because it's really difficult. Still have some things that during COVID, I don't know if I mentioned it, I typed cards for the vertical file because those things have not been converted. So any help that Rails has been given to the museum it's very, very appreciated. And then my last thing is thank you to Rails from me for the captioning, because now I can hear through my eyes. I can really hear, read and see, and I feel much more into it than I have before. So I appreciate your sensitivity to my problem. Thank you, Jane.
Any other reports?
Well, this is related to my library, but the Pinnacle Library Cooperative hit its 10-year anniversary this week on Tuesday, 3 days ago. It's 10 years since we went live, so we all celebrated and we're very happy about that.
Wow, it's been 10 years.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
My little library, the Alpha Park Public Library, we started summer reading as always. Our first event was a bubble event. We had 40 registrants and 120 people showed up. So it's,
Sounds about right.
so we were running all around town to find bubble stuff. So hopefully the rest of the summer reading thing will go like that too. So, any other comments or about your libraries?
Well, I guess I can announce this. We have a new library director starting July 5th. And her name is Leslie Vano. She was originally in Rockford. And she's been between Rockford and Morris. And now she's come to Kewanee.
Awesome.
I'm very happy about that.
That's
Congratulations.
Rockford and Morris.
Well, she would,
Well,
those are where she's been.
that's where she's been.
Oh.
She'll move to Kewanee, I think.
Well, good luck. We have
I
someone,
don't think she'll be able to commute.
we had someone from Rockford, Charity Girdler, come to our library and it's worked out great so far. So
Good.
Anyway, we're very happy about that. We were getting a little nervous because we weren't having any applicants, but great.
And
Through.
I'm sure Barbara is very grateful that she can retire.
she's really holding on. She hold on till you had someone.
Well, she was gonna stay a little bit longer. if
Oh,
we
that was
didn't,
very
but
kind.
We had a succession plan,
Okay.
so if it came to that, we would have had somebody that was able to fill in until we got.
Okay,
Congratulations.
yeah, good deal. Any other comments? No, okay. We'll move on to the meeting recap and agenda building for the next board meeting. The board orientation is scheduled for 9 to noon on July 22nd, followed by lunch, and then the regular board meeting at 1. The July board meeting agenda will include quarterly consensual reports, consortial reports. The newly elected board members will be sworn in. The election of the board officers will be held, and the board meeting calendar will be presented for approval. Is there anything else we need to add to that? Scott, you don't want to add on a bunch of stuff for us to do. It's just the.
Yes.
Too many
indeed, but no.
Okay.
Add more than 3 things, you have to come.
Okay, if there are no additional things, we would like to move into closed session. The board will now move into closed session to discuss matters pertaining to collective negotiating as per 5 Illinois compiled statutes, chapter 120, paragraph 2, section 2, C2, which states exceptions, a public body may hold closed meetings to consider the following subjects: the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specifics of employees of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity. May I have a motion to move to executive session?
So,
Oh, Alex, thank you, Alex. Second by Diane. Okay, Diane. Emily, can you call roll?
Sure. Alice Creason,
Yes.
Robin Hellenthal,
Yes.
Diane Hollister,
Yes.
Chris Kenny had to leave. Jennifer McIntosh,
Yes.
Scott Poynton,
yes.
Becky Spratford,
Yes.
Monica Tova,
Yes.
Alex Vancina,
Yes.
Karen Voidick,
Yes.
Sue Busenbarg,
Yes.
Hallie Cox. I think she had to leave also. Rosie Camargo had to leave. And Thomas Stagg.
Yes.
Okay, we still have a quorum.
All right,
Thank
this
you.
is Scott. I'd like to make a motion that we award Deirdre Brandon a 5.9% bonus effective July 1st. Is that what we're saying? July 1st?
July 1st.
Yes.
This is Becky. I second it.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Thank you, Becky. Okay. Emily?
I will call roll. Robin Hohenthal,
Yes.
Diane Hollister,
Yes.
Jennifer McIntosh,
Yes.
Scott Pointon,
Yes.
Becky Spratford.
Yes.
Monica Tolva. She left. Alex Vancina,
Yes.
Karen Boydick,
Yes.
Sue Busenbark,
Yes. Yes.
Alice Creason,
Yes.
and Thomas Stagg.
Yes. Okay. Anyone have anything else? If not, we'll move to adjourn and everyone have a great weekend.
Happy Father's Day to the fathers.